am Dr. Karen Hills Pruden, and this is another episode of the Sister Leaders Podcast. And I know I say it every time, and I mean it every time, but we have a treat for you today. We have an awesome sister leader who's going to tell you about what she does in this space called life. And you know she's powerful because I only bring powerful people up here. And so, Dr. Adebola Ajao, tell the Sister Leaders Podcast community all there is to know about you, and let's get this conversation started.
Thank you so much, Dr. Karen. Thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate it. Introducing me to the Sister Leader Circle and just having me with you to chat with you today. I appreciate it. So my name is Dr. Adebola Ajao. I'm a practicing epidemiologist by training, but I'm also an author, speaker, personal development coach. I'm a wife and mother of three. I always like to add that because mothering is a full-time job. And I'm also the founder of Empowering Initiatives, and that's an organization that empowers and equips professional women to identify their passion, walk in their purpose, through personal development and personal leadership so they can fulfill their highest potential, have more impact, and live their best life.
I love that. Empowering initiatives. So what prompted you to create a business to assist women in this way? Is there a pain point that you exhibited in your life, or you know someone who exhibited? What is the precipice for why you started your business?
Thank you for that question. So for me, it was really more like 7 years ago, way into my career, way into, having my kids, where I felt like even though I had a profession that I love and a job that I trained for so many years, and I was in a very prestigious federal agency, I got to a point where I felt stuck and I felt stretched and unfulfilled in a job that was my dream job. So for me, I really got to a point where I just was doing more and more. And as a Black scientist, a Black woman who's a scientist, I was looking for other leaders, other female leaders who look like me for support, how to advance in my career and raise my children, my three children at the same time. And that really was my pain point. I just was stretching and just burnt out. And I realized that I couldn't do that anymore. I had to pause. And that was when I started to go through my personal development journey, where I had to look inwards to identify my strengths. Because it's in leading with my strengths that I can really excel, and we can all excel. It's in leaning into our strengths. So that's my journey, and that's how I got to a place where I know there's a lot of professional women that are feeling the same way, especially Black women, where we feel like we just have to stretch so much to be seen and to be heard and to be valued in order to feel fulfilled.
I love that. So that, there is a lot of similarity between yourself and your story and my story in terms of how I started Sister Leaders. Because I was in middle management and wanted to get in senior leadership, and I didn't see any female senior leaders, didn't know any female senior leaders. And so what I ended up doing was going up on LinkedIn. This was 15 years ago. LinkedIn didn't have the 1 billion people it has up there now, and it literally has 1 billion people on LinkedIn, which is crazy. But 15 years ago, we were still trying to figure it out. But I found a mentor on LinkedIn through doing research on LinkedIn and just kind of sending these direct messages to individuals. And one of the two people that I sent a message to, she said she would be my mentor. And it came with a price tag. It was $350 an hour. And, back then your girl wasn't rolling like that, but I made it happen because I needed the mentorship to tell me how to focus myself to get ready for senior leadership. And so when there's an absence of who to go to or a blueprint or something like that, then since I went through that situation of me having to seek out a mentor, I created sister leaders that have an organization where the mentors are already on deck. And
Mhm.
that's what they are committed to being mentors for women leaders, because of that pain point that I went through. And so very similar stories. So let me, just like myself, you have a whole lot of different roles. You have a
Yes.
lot of different roles. You're an author, speaker, mother, wife, and professional. First of all, tell me and what a epidemic. Hold on, I'm gonna get it. Epidemiologist. Did I say it right?
Epidemiologist.
Okay, so tell the sister leaders community, because I'm sure it's somebody else out there. I know y'all laughing at me. It's somebody else out there who don't know exactly what it is, and I'm not Googling it because, yeah, I could Google it, but I'm not. So tell us what it is, so that we can understand what it is that you would do, because you're an expert at it. If you're a doctor at it, you're an expert at it. So tell us a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, thank you. So, an epidemiologist is pretty much a scientist that studies disease distribution and risk factors at a population level. So, like a physician would treat a patient one on one, epidemiologists will look at the data on a population level and see where is the disease occurring, when is it occurring, in whom is it occurring, what are the risk factors, and that helps us to understand how we can prevent that disease or treat that disease.
Oh, wow. So am I accurate to say, oh, I could be inaccurate, but am I accurate to say that the global pandemic really created work for your industry, correct?
Absolutely. I don't know if it's about creating work. I think the work has been there, but it brought us to the forefront because all of a sudden you see epidemiologists on TV and on CNN talking about COVID, where it was popping up, how much is the incidence, all of those statistics they were quoting during COVID. So that was a good time for us. It definitely brought us to the forefront.
I love that. I love that. And I love data. So I'm a person who loves data and technology. And so I know that data plays a big role in what you're doing if you're tracking and researching and trying to forecast and predict, then data has to be associated with that. And so given that, how did you pick this field? Is this something that picked you because you're good at math and science, or how did you fall in love with this industry?
Mhm. And that's a good question because I did not pick this right from the beginning. There's a story there too. I'm Nigerian by origin. And so if you know anything about Nigerian parents, they always tell you what to do. They always tell you what you're going to be. So they told me right from the beginning, you're going to be a physician, right? Because I'm good at science. I'm a good student. I was a good student. So, naturally they look at you and your abilities and they say, well, you look like you'll be a good doctor. So that was the original plan. Then I came to the US when I was 17. I went to college to study biology because I thought that's what every potential doctor does. I studied biology, and in my last year of college, I took a course in epidemiology, and I loved it. And I was like, okay, why I'm trying to figure out this MCAT thing? Let me go get a master's in public health and with a concentration in epidemiology and biostatistics. And I just loved it. And I spent the next 5 years working in clinical research. And I loved it so much. I went and got a doctorate in it because I did realize while I was working at it, if you want to make decisions, if you want to get your own grants, if you need to go higher. So I went and got a doctorate full time for 5 years, had my kids somewhere in between. And so for me, there was really even though I say it wasn't chosen for me, there was still a path. It's very much related to medicine. I work with a lot of physicians and pharmacists in the work that I do. So it is, that's how I fell into it. And I feel like even if I'd become a physician, I probably would still have ended up here because I really enjoy really looking at the disease at the population level and understanding who's more likely to get what disease based on, certain comorbidities they have or certain family risk factors they have.
I love that. So one of your other hats is that you are a author. And
Mm-hmm.
so tell me about your publications. Tell me why you are published, why you decided to publish, and then tell me about your publications.
Yes, so everything is connected, right? So after my doctorate, I started my career working for this prestigious organization. Um, was there for about 7 years. And again, like I mentioned earlier, feeling stretched. I'm ambitious and I always wanted to do more. I always wanted to grow. So I just got to a point where I was feeling stuck and I felt like it wasn't sustainable at the rate that I would take on volunteer for every project just to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to pause, like I said earlier, and kind of look within and say, okay, this is not sustainable. How do I do this better? And so I looked inwards, I started to understand my gifts and really some of the adjectives that I noted in myself on that journey is that I'm a good communicator. I'm someone that empathizes with other people. I have emotional intelligence. I'm someone who likes to lead others and someone who likes mentoring. I'm nurturing. And so through my personal development journey, I decided to pivot and start to take on leadership positions, start to, lead projects and lead teams. And I realized that I really shine in that area because I'm just a very logical person. I can look at things from a big perspective, but I can also dive deep into the details. And I really enjoy mentoring others because that was part of my pain points, not having a female mentor. Anyway, I did have male mentors, but I did not have a female mentor. And so in that journey of personal development is really where I realized that it's really important to understand who you are. It's important to understand your authentic self, your gifts, your skills. And in all of that, I wanted to put the principles that I've learned on that journey together into a book. So I put it into 5 principles. And those 5 principles is really first about mindset. So thinking the way you think, your thoughts and your beliefs really shapes your habits and really shapes how far you can go. So of the 5 principles, the first one is think big. And then the second one is face your fears, which, for every next level that we're trying to go to, there's a fear attached to it. And so when I decided to pivot and start to take on those leadership positions, there were fears attached to that. Would I be able to do this? Would I be able to manage it with my responsibility of being a parent? So there's fear attached to that. And I had to face each of those fears. And I'm still practicing those principles right now. The other 3 are finding the right knowledge, finding mentorship, peership, and a community, and taking action. So I put all of that into a book because I do believe that every woman needs to lean on those principles in order to be able to really fulfill their potential. So I've lived it, I'm living it, and I wanted to share it with other women.
And the title of that book again is what?
Empowered Woman.
Empowered Woman. Absolutely. I love that. So let's talk about being a woman and being in a industry where I'm assuming there's not a whole lot of women at the high level. Or tell me about, is your industry prevalent with women doctors, or is it a lot of testosterone up there where you are?
It's a little bit of both, but I feel like high up you see more men. Obviously, men don't have to deal with the same burden of raising children or being, mainly responsible to be that caretaker. And so you see a lot of women shying away from taking up those leadership positions, especially at a younger age. So when their kids are young and they are, they feel with a lot of activities, I think women tend to shy away. Men don't have the same type of challenge and they can really work into the night and they can, they don't have to pick up the kids from school because the woman does a lot of those. And then, food, taking care of the food, taking care of all the homework that's coming from school. So I do see, even though there are a lot of women in my field, you do see more men at the leadership positions, or men tend to grow much faster at a much faster rate. And maybe women would wait until much later in life before they start to take on those leadership roles.
And if they wait till later, is it difficult for them to move up when they're ready if it's at a later time? Because a lot of times when I'm in senior leadership, I've been in senior leadership for 15 years. A lot of times, sometimes your trajectory is fast because you're hot. Let's say you're hot, for the lack of a better word. Your career is hot. People see you. They know the problem you solve. You have receipts, based on the work that you've done. And so you can kind of move quick. In a span of 10 years, you can go from obscurity to the go-to person. But if for a woman to wait later in life where she's decided, okay, now the kids are big enough, I can move, I can take on additional responsibilities, I want to see how far I can go in this particular industry. Is it as easy as saying, I'm ready now, or is opportunities thinner later for that woman who put family first? What are your
Mhm.
thoughts on that?
I think opportunity could be thinner later. And there's always that fear that if I sit in this position and wait until my kids are grown, my time may have passed. My time may have passed, and other people that came behind me but are willing to take that risk, I've been given that position. They've taken that position. Depending on what organization you're in, I think once people get past a certain age, they tend to stay in those positions longer. Once people get past a certain age, so then it become difficult for those positions to open up. Right? It's like a pyramid. Like there's a lot of room at the bottom, but once you start to go up, there's
Yes.
not as much room. And if you miss the opportunity when it's your time, it may take much longer for the opportunity to come back if it ever does.
Yes, yes, I agree with that, because for the bulk of my career, I was head of human resources, and so um, the expectation was that I would die as head of human
Mm-hmm.
resources because people rarely move from that position. Fortunately for me, people recognize my business skills because I always put that in the forefront. Even though I was head of HR, I always talk business because I actually came from the business side of corporate and moved to HR. And so I always talked in business form. I wasn't just an HR subject matter expert, which is why technology and analytics are my specialties. So when I would get into those high visibility meetings, I knew the whole business, not just my little department, or my, not necessarily little, but not just my lane. And so I was able to speak to not only how my department impacted all the other departments, but I understood the business, the seasonality of it, the inconsistencies of any type of client or customer purchases in terms of services. And so that allowed me to pivot later out of HR. And
Mm.
so it is important when you're in those industries where people kind of get, like you said, kind of get to a period of where they just coast. Because they have to move out of that position for the next person to come up, but they're just coasting day to day, coming in, waiting on retirement. Don't want to go any higher, but just waiting on retirement. But that prevents everybody else, who's interested in excelling. They're stuck there. They either have to go externally
Yeah.
or wait and pray that it's going to be a timely situation. And I have a saying that never put your employer as the pilot of your career.
Mm.
Never wait for them to hand you a position. If you are ready to go to the next level, then you need to show yourself to the marketplace for that same level of a position at the time that you are ready. Because also what happens is that if you wait, you no longer have, and it takes a number of years, you no longer have the passion for the next position that you once had if you had moved when you decided you were ready.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And like we were talking about that pyramid, even the whole idea of going outside, I think sometimes it's also challenging. I like what you said about showing yourself to the marketplace. I totally and absolutely agree with that. But even when you do that, see other people that are director level positions and other organizations that are trying to come into this new organizations where there's already a pyramid and there's no space at that top for them. And there are people that are already in that particular organization that are also looking for those positions to open up. So I do agree, and I do believe that once you see the opportunity, you have to take it, because the God of opportunity is very slippery. If you don't grab it with both hands, you just don't know when the next one is going to open up.
Yeah, and then also I could give you a flip side of, if internally, if your organization think that you are the next person for the opportunity and you aren't ready, it'll take them a long time to look at you again.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't move when your organization think you should move, like they have their eye on you, you are the next VP, and then you decide, no, I want to wait till 3 more years to when my child is out of elementary school or whatever. Well, it takes a long time before they're looking at you again for that position. And you almost sometimes have to go externally to move up, because in their head, they'll never think that you're ready again, because you weren't ready when they wanted you to be ready. I think it's purely a selfish reason. And actually, I'm talking because that actually happened to me. I turned down a position one time in my career when the employer wanted me to accept the position. I was the interim person, but I only agreed to the interim role to help the company out. I didn't want it full time. They wanted me to work full time. I told them I didn't want to work full time. And then they told me, I found out through like the scuttlebutt, just talking to people that they decided that had, because I didn't take the position, that when I was ready to move, that I wasn't going to move. And so I ended up going externally, moving up
Yeah.
to the next. So my name, you kind of create a name for yourself sometimes. It's purely selfish reasons why employers do that, but it does happen.
Yeah, but you mentioned readiness, and I think that's something that women, we always feel like we have to be 100% ready, or maybe
Nope.
90% or 80% ready. And that's not true, because you really learn in the job. And if you don't take up the position, you never really know if you're ready for it.
Yes.
So once you step into it, you take up the challenge, you start to learn, you're ready to learn. That's the key. I feel like it's really about the willingness to learn. And once you already, for you to be identified and picked, you already have what it takes. And the fact that you're picked shows you that you're ready. And when you get in that position, you will gain all the other necessary skills you need to
Yes.
excel there. So I think it's all about mindsets. I feel like that readiness is a mindset thing.
I totally agree. Being head of HR for so many years, 28 years actually, I have seen people apply for the top positions and they only have 40% of what we were looking for, but they
Mhm.
went ahead and applied. And then I have known people internally who had much more than that, who wouldn't apply for the position because they felt like they needed 100% of what we were looking for. And it's like, no, if we like 60% of it, we'll train you for the other 40%, but you don't give us the chance if you don't apply. And most of the time it was women candidates who felt like, and I hate to make biased statements because nothing is all inclusive. So when I say guys and women or whatever, I'm not talking about all men, I'm not talking about all girls, all women. But a lot of times it's the women who believe that they have to have every check mark on a job posting before they apply. And a lot of times I've seen guys say, oh, I meet 60%, I'm going to apply and let them tell me no. And they go in and they kind of wow them based on whatever their area expertise is. And then the employer decides they don't have this. Let's get them the training for that. But let's go ahead and hire them. But if you don't put yourself in the running, you won't even allow our employer the opportunity to say, we're not going to worry about that because we're going to train somebody to help you with that.
Yeah, absolutely. The people that get the position are not necessarily the smartest people or the most experienced people. It's the people that are willing to put their hands up and say, me too. I want a chance. Give me a chance. And, if we don't give ourselves that opportunity, we're never going to be able to show that we can do it.
Absolutely. So let's talk about you, the keynote speaker. So what type of topics do you speak on? And who do you speak to? Who are your ideal audiences and when you make those presentations?
Yeah, so my ideal audience is really professional women because I've been there in that place where I was stuck and I was looking for how to harness all my skills and harness all my strengths, and pivot and figure out what type of positions really utilizes my strengths. And I'm surrounded by a lot of highly educated women, physicians, that are in the job and they're not happy in the job. This was a job that they thought they were, going to love. But as you do the day-to-day thing, getting the day-to-day grind of work, they lose sight of their purpose and they lose sight of why they're in that job. And so my talk is really about reminding people you need to identify why you're in that position. You need to identify why you're in that job, understand what your purpose is, and make sure you're in the right job that's aligned with your purpose and aligned with your skills and aligned with your strengths. Because when you connect who you are with what you do, it really allows you to shine. That's how you live to your fullest potential and you live your best life, especially when you're connected to serving others. So if who I am connects with what I do and who I'm serving, then I'm really able to live out my best life in that way. So really using those 5 principles. So I go deep into the 5 principles and I give certain tools under each of those principles that professional women can use to, train their mindset, for example, and, take action and find communities and peers in order to reach that potential. We have to connect who we are with what we do and who we serve.
I love that. And I believe everything starts with the mind as well. Once you, if you don't have the right thoughts about what you're doing, positive thoughts about what you're doing, that it can even impact your overall health in an adverse way. I want to kind of pivot just a little bit about a younger you. Let's talk
Mm-hmm.
about a younger you. And so I understand that kind of your um career or medicine or doctor was kind of the path that was laid before you at a young age. But if you had a number two career, what would that number two career be and why?
Oh, wow. I feel like if I wasn't an epidemiologist, I'll be a psychologist. That's a
Okay.
natural other part of me. And I was actually, I had a minor in psychology in college. So I was already on that path too. And that's just a natural part of me. Like I was mentioning earlier, I'm a very empathetic person. I'm that friend that everybody comes to and talks to about their issues. I get close to people very quickly because I'm constantly listening. I'm a good listener. I'm a good communicator. I'm nurturing in nature. I'm a Cancer, so I'm very nurturing. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's my other natural potential I
Mm-hmm.
see in myself. I feel like if I wasn't an epidemiologist, I'll be a psychologist. So they're both in the sciences, but yeah, that's really who I am. And I think that's why also, that's why my principles and being able to have this new passion of supporting other professional women that are going through maybe what I've been through and empowering them to be able to make a different decision about where they are in their career in order for them to pivot to go to the next level. It all makes sense to me. I love being around people. I love working with women. And actually in my work, I do women's health. So a lot of the work that I do, I work in contraceptives and drugs for a lot of diseases of women, so fibroids and endometriosis. So that's also the area that I'm in, even in my daily job. So I'm very much gravitated towards people and particularly towards women. So even though I'm an epidemiologist, I'm kind of merging my two areas of interest, like my scientific side, but also my people side. And bringing it all together, even in my new initiatives where I'm empowering professional women to pivot and, move to the next level and reach their potential. So I feel like I'm a psychologist too, in a way, without the degree.
Well, and you can use those skills no matter what industry you're in. The empathy and listening, all of that is going to be beneficial in whatever industry you're in anyway, because it helps with our people, our relationships. If you can't have a good relationship if you can't listen.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And I think that's also what makes me excel as a leader, because I really care about my people. I care about my team. I really want them to be seen and heard and nurtured and understand that they're valued. And so that part of me, that almost psychology part of me and that people person part of me is the strengths and the skills that I'm using now in my new positions, in my new leadership positions.
Awesome. So down the road, so what is on the horizon for you down the road professionally? Is there anything that we can help support you in, or we can buy or read or attend, or tell us about anything that you got going on down the road?
Yeah, you can definitely support my book that I have right now. It's Empowered Woman, 5 Principles for Living Your Best Life and Fulfilling Your Potential. I'm definitely looking to do more writing, maybe in the leadership space. So I might be coming to you, interviewing you, interviewing women in the leadership space to understand the qualities and the things that they've learned on their leadership journey to empower the younger generation of leaders that are coming forward. So that's a book that I'm working on. That's in the future. Um, Also, I do workshops in my area. So the principles that I have in my book, I do workshops around them periodically. I put that out from time to time on my social media. And looking to continue to grow in my career, in my professional space, and continue to mentor younger professionals, younger scientists in my space. Yeah, and do more speaking. I definitely want to do more speaking, get on more stages, get my message out, because I do feel like it's a necessary message. It's something that a lot of women need, especially dealing with, wanting to climb the corporate ladder and, nurture your family at the same time. I do feel like it's a constant battle and challenge for women. So being able to support them and give them the tools that they need to do that balance and shift their mindset to be able to take those next steps.
I love that. And so, before we close out, so tell them how they can stay connected with you. Any social media, anything you want to share, any information that they can find you, where they can find you and stay connected to you.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on Instagram. I'm an empowered.woman 2021. I put out some motivations on Mondays. I put on Thanksgiving Thursdays, because one of the tools that I teach about is gratitude. So I really believe that gratitude is important in shifting our mindset to see appreciating what we have right now helps us to see where we can go in the future. So I put out a lot of stuff on my IG just to nurture our mindsets into being able to shift into our next level. You can also email me at empoweringinitiativesmd@gmail.com. I also have a website, empoweringinitiatives.net. So all of those, you can find me there and contact me and reach out to me and see whatever programs I have coming up on those social media spaces.
I love that. And so I will go ahead and move into the outtake. This has been a wonderful discussion. I'm going to encourage you to stay connected to Dr. Adebola. I say it again.
Ajao.
Ajao. And I'm going to spell her last name Ajao. For those who are listening and who may not be looking at the video, so that you can look her up, so that you can look her up. So this has been another discussion. I am excited. Of course, I only bring interesting people up here. And so I'm going to be Googling after this interview so that I can learn a lot more about what it is that she is doing, because, I am one of those inquisitive people. And so I'm going to be looking up some things and learning some things. But I will encourage you We have the Sister Leaders Conference that is coming up on October 4th and 5th. It's going to be at the Rivers Casino in Portsmouth, Virginia. Of course, you know, our theme this year is more. Women deserve to be seen more, heard more, and paid more. And so we've already secured our lineup, our keynote speakers. We're also going to have our conference anthology this year, which is Grit and Grace, Women Redefining Leadership. And so we're going to have women telling their stories and experiences of how they were able to succeed in their industry their way, regardless of the obstacles. And so I am just excited about what is all to come leading up to the conference. And I'm excited about the conference because this will be the first fully in-person, live stream, and virtual. So we will still be international because we're going to live stream. We'll be in person. And so this is exciting, exciting times. And so I am Dr. Karen Hills Pruden, and this has been another episode of Sister Leaders, the podcast. Bye.